Hey guys, what's up? It's Jeff. We're back with another episode of How to Play the Game. Last time we were talking about applying pressure as part of our series on space creation and control. Today we're here with the second part of that, how to actually take space. Is what we're going to be focused on today. First, we're going to go over some typical qualities of the initiator, the job, or the person whose job it is to take that space. This can also be known as the entry in games like CSGO or Valorant, or the duelist in Valorant. But I think of them as the initiator from my time in Overwatch. They're the spear tip, right? As an example, we've got Paper Rex versus EG Grand Finals 2023 for Valorant. We've got the 2022 Overwatch League Grand Finals, and we have the 2023 Overwatch League Grand Finals. And then we've got the 2023 GSL Season 2 Grand Finals for StarCraft 2. And the reason that we've got those different games is not only again to show how diverse this topic is, how it applies to a broad variety of games. I could have very easily gone and found a Dota 2 game that would show this as well, or a League of Legends game. If you really want to search, or if I watched chess, I could find a chess game that demonstrated this, right? But we want to show a variety to show that it applies in a lot of places, and you can think about it in relation to your own game. I wanted to show a variety of age for games. So even between 2022 and 2023, you can see the change in level of play for the Overwatch League matches. The quality of team play is so much higher over the course of just that year, even though the game has changed a lot since then. But before we get into that, again, let's go over some of the qualities that entry or initiator type player is going to have. So typically, they have a gap close, and they have, in Overwatch, you would call this self peel or survivability mechanic, right? I'm not sure I like this whiteboard. So these are very typical of the entry character or player's role. Thinking in line of characters like Dota, you have different heroes. Valorant, you have different heroes. Um, and StarCraft, you have different units. And Overwatch, you have different heroes. There's just different abilities available to you. If you're playing CSGO, it looks a little different. Everybody's got the same stuff, so it's more about who's carrying less valuable stuff in a lot of situations. Anyways, what is their job, right? What is their job? Well, a lot of people say that their job is to take space. It's like, what does that even mean? Take space. Take space. Take space. Well, how do we define this, right? What is that? Taking space, going from point A into point B, whatever that may be, right? Are we dashing to Gen on Ascent? Are we collapsing on the objective on King's Row? Are we pushing the fourth base in StarCraft 2? Take space. Well, we're inserting a player into a position. And how do we do that? Well, typically they want a gap close. They want something that allows them to close distance. Dota 2, you might find somebody like Earth Spirit or Storm Spirit who can get in close. And typically they have some kind of survivability, because here's the key thing. When your job is to get in to point B, you need to survive. The most important part of any entry, of any initiator role, is to live. Let's put that in big words here, big letters. Live. Please, 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 just live. That's your job. Your job is to go in and not die. Now, the gap close is cool. The survivability is key, but what does survivability look like, right? Well, survivability, one of two things. Survivability can be health, not just two things. We're going to list a lot of things here. So health, mobility, and resistance. Shields in Overwatch, defense matrix in Overwatch, status resistance in Dota 2, armor in Dota 2, shields in Valorant, mobility in Valorant, raw health in Overwatch, Dota 2, mobility in StarCraft 2, health in StarCraft 2. At least one, if not two or more of these things, these three things here, you're going to find that. 2 is ideal. 3 is godlike. If something has all three, if something is mobile and chunky and has good resistance, then it's just broken. Good example is Winston. Winston in Overwatch is a good example. He's got good mobility, he's got good health, he's got good resistances. He's a problem. The thing about Winston is he either doesn't do enough damage to be threatening, and so you can ignore him, or he's completely broken. And if he's ignorable, then he's not useful. And if he's not ignorable, then the question is, can you kill him? And so there's a lot that goes into it, right? It's a very intricate game. But he's a good example of a character that has all three. In Dota, you'll often find a character that has one or two of the three, and then you will give them another one by virtue of having an additional character, right? So, Wraith King doesn't have mobility, but he can buy Blink Dagger, and he's got tons of health. Omni Knight provides resistance. Oracle provides health/resistance, like an invulnerability to a character, and so you can pick a character with mobility and give them an extra life kind of thing. So you can have other stuff to cover the weaknesses. A good example for Valorant is that you can throw a flash in with your duelist so that your duelist isn't just hanging out there by themselves. That flash provides an ability which gives them resistance. It's a defensive play in that situation. Even though you're thinking of it as an aggressive move, its job is to keep your duelist alive. It's not necessarily to do anything else. So, let's look at some of these examples, right? We're going to look first at this one, PRX, e.g. Jing is entering into the site, and we're going to see him go in here. And at this moment, at this exact moment, nobody else is in the site. Nobody else has taken space. If Jing dies to Demon 1 in this moment, the rush is dead. The play, they're so screwed. Demon 1 can swing the corner. There's a 90-degree crossfire on the choke point, and all of a sudden, PRX they're just not going to win this round. But Jing lives, and this is where everybody else starts getting into the site. It's not until after that initiation. Now, at the Tier 1 level, if we watch this all the way through, right, we can count the seconds down from the entry. It's 123 here. And Devi pushes the site at 118. So that's 5 seconds before Devi and something are on the site. That's not the fastest timing window in the world, but it's pretty good. It's definitely a lot faster than you'll see at like a Tier 2 level. Here's another example. Jogamo actually does the entrying here. He TPs in to switch, which creates enough space for everybody else to swing out and try and take this. Now, this is a really... they're disadvantaged. EG is severely disadvantaged in this round, just off the rip. But they've got decent positionings. Their entry is out here in the site alone, and that's going to draw attention, hopefully, which creates space for Demon 1 to get kills, and then Jogamo is able to come in and help clean up. But unfortunately, The second part of the taking the space doesn't really happen. So you saw Devi and something stream in. They took the space off of the entry. It was really nice. Because Jogamo TPs through a Raise-Nade here, the Raise-Nade comes through, Jogamo TPs, nobody's able to go off it after him. The kills come in, and so they're like, okay, well, maybe we should swing. But now there's no room. The space is no longer created, right? It got closed back in on. So they've inserted a player, and he managed to survive, but they didn't capitalize. They didn't backfill the space behind him. This is something that we're going to see in the Overwatch. So here we've got Atlanta Reign. This is old school, 6v6. And there are actually two characters, primarily your Reinhardt and then secondarily your Diva on this lineup for taking space. And then for the Shanghai Dragons, Fate's job is to take space on the Hammond. So you get this, Yater's up here, his job is to live. He is here, he's taken this space, and you can see in that overhead how it's backfilled. Like his characters, his team are right behind him. And then his resources get run out. He runs dry. His shield gets broken, his health is getting burned, he's the sole focus, and Hawk makes a play. He drags a ton of attention, but his job here isn't to kill Lip. He would love to kill Lip, but his job isn't to kill Lip. His job is to not die. Now, he does this poorly because he dives low ground instead of diving this high ground here, though the Brig makes it hard for him to go on high ground. And he ends up getting totally collapsed on, but he created space and he lived long enough for Gator and Pelican to kill two characters, so it's a 2-for-1 trade. And you can see here, its resources are relatively even in terms of health, in terms of cooldowns. Everything is pretty much even, except for the fact that there's a whole extra character on the side of Atlanta Reign. And that's what allows them to get the purchase here on this point. But it's solely off of that, and this is a cool thing about 6v6 Overwatch that doesn't exist anymore, is that you would leapfrog your tanks forward. So one tank would take space, and the next tank would take space, and they would backfill. And it's that backfill that allows you to really control an area. You'll see it here a little bit better. So Florida Mayhem's speed boost, and someone's job is to take the space and not die. He's the Reinhardt, he's the tank, that's his role. But you can see how close behind him they are. There's not that same gap that you get with Valorant. And this is a choke point, right? Now, of course, he's got a big blue rectangle, and that prevents everybody running behind him from getting one shot. That's not a feature in Valorant. That's not something that you can do. And yeah, maybe you hit the blind of the century, and you 5-man swing through a choke, and all of you get sprayed down by an Odin. So there's obviously some difference in games, but the important thing is that he's rotating into a position. His job is to be inserted into another location, and he gets all the resources to be able to do that. His shield got broken, he got anti-healed, he gets the immortality field, he gets boosted. His job is to take this space so that this player can now occupy that space, right? They come in to refill that space, that backfilling idea, and then it's just clean up from there. In StarCraft, you end up with kind of a similar thing. This is not the best example of a fourth base push. I could probably find one pretty easily because it's something that happens almost every TVZ. But here, Maru is using these Widow Mines as pressure back here. There's something that need to be dealt with. And the Widow Mine, after it fires, can be pretty much left alone. So he's burrowing it and unburrowing it so that it doesn't shoot. And that drags these units into this position. It keeps these workers idle. But the entire time he's doing that, Maru, from right now, he's already got units streaming up the mini-map. It's friggin' hard to see. I can't zoom it in. But you'll see it here in a moment. He's got units streaming up the map, so, okay, he's like, now that can die, because I'm already backfilling the space that it helped create. And he comes in here, and he forces the cancel on the space, takes a pretty powerful position, and really sets a really strong tempo in this game by doing that. Now, again, I could probably go and find almost any fourth base push in the game. Oh, I think this is the map that Maru threw. Yeah. Maru could have totally won that map. But it's all about the backfill on these. This is a... God, this was a legendary game. One thing the Terrans will also do in this is they'll use Marines to fill. This is what I wanted to find and I didn't. But they'll use Marines as the spearhead for the attack because they can be picked up. They're mobile. They can run away. And the tanks are the backfill. The tanks are what come in behind the Marines and allow you to take the fight. This game is crazy. Series is really worth watching. It's very good. If you just love esports. And these guys have played together so many times in so many finals. Their games look just a little bit weird. Just a little bit abnormal, as they might say. Are we going to get a tank push? I don't think we actually get a tank push from Maru in this series, which is kind of... Oh, here it is. Here we go. So yeah, tanks, marauders, these are heavy units. They're hard to kill. They do a ton of damage. That's their role. Their job is to backfill the space that's created by the Marines. Now, the Marines don't... The Marines do good damage, but they have a lot of survivability with their health, and they've got a lot of mobility. So they're able to get in there with the stem. They're able to get medevaced out. They're able to run back, but the tanks fill the space in behind the Marines, which is what actually turns this into a serious situation. If it weren't for the tanks coming in and filling the space in behind the Marines, it would just be like earlier where you've got some units coming in, poking, doing some damage, but ultimately not a game-ending or back-breaking move. So hopefully that illustrates a little bit about how to take space. You want a character that's going to be able to get in there and survive. And then how to make use of that space. You have to backfill it. If nobody follows up on that, if nobody comes in as well, then you're not actually making use of it. And it becomes kind of wasted. Another good example from Valorant is Skydog. You can use Skydog to take space as the entry, and then the second player is the one who's coming in, backfilling. The thing is, the Skydog doesn't provide nearly as much threat as a player, so it buys you a lot less value than having a player take that space initially. And the secondary guy has a lot more work to do, the guy right behind the dog. So it's like a double entry more than guy number 2 being a backfill. But it does allow you to insert something forward and then fill that space in behind. And that ties into the application of pressure, because if you paid attention to that, you want to get something forward, you want to apply pressure to create space somewhere on the map. But then once you create that space, you need to get deep, and then you need to reinforce it as fast as possible. So hopefully that's helpful. Next time we're going to be talking about space control. We've talked about opening up space. We've talked about taking space. We've talked about filling space. Now what do we do with that space? How do we keep that space? More on that next time. As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to leave any questions down in the comments below, and like and subscribe to continue supporting CG and everything that we do here, as well as get information on when the next video drops. See you next time.